Hello. Oh, I've got a really bad echo. Hold on. Leave. Is that better? That's better, isn't it? No echo now. Gosh, look at all this chat already. I'm amazed. And oh, thank you guys. It has just been absolutely phenomenal. I had no expectations really of what this week might be like. I kind of thought, that we might get 1,000 people in a Facebook group and we'd have some events and things, but this has absolutely blown me away. It's been a really difficult time with coronavirus, obviously just generally, but I also think from a sort of environmental perspective, it's been really hard to know how to talk, how and if to talk about sort of the climate crisis and things like that. And it's been really easy to think that people aren't that bothered about it at the moment and everybody's got other priorities. But just to see over 2,500 people come together in the space of 3 weeks just shows that there really is that that support and that feeling out there. And this is, I really don't want this to turn into an Oscar speech, but I've put a big thank you post in the group to all the speakers, to all the people who came and did open mics, to all the panelists, because it's a big ask. Crowdcast has been a new platform for so many people. It was a new platform for me until a few weeks ago, and it's nerve-wracking coming on. It's nerve-wracking coming on and doing any kind of public speaking anyway. It's nerve-wracking coming on to new technology. So, and I know, having spoken to some of the speakers in the green room, they've been really nervous and all that sort of thing. And I just want to, I think one of the kind of unintended consequences maybe of the festival is that to see those people take that deep breath, step into that fear, because they believe in what they're doing so passionately, and that they sort of, it's bigger than themselves, and to see that happen and to people kind of embrace their knowledge and their expertise and things has been absolutely phenomenal. So a massive thank you to all of them, and a massive thank you to all of you guys, because without you guys watching, this would have been nothing. And without all your gorgeous support and just so much, I can't think of another word for support, but in the Facebook group, and we had that horrible incident on the first Monday, and just the sort of outpouring of love and support was just phenomenal. And it's just been Facebook groups can be a tricky beast, and sometimes it can all get a bit antsy in there, but it's just been a genuinely lovely place to come and spend time, and genuinely lovely to spend this week with you guys. So I don't know how to even start summing up kind of what's happened. I think we've had 40 talks. I'm not sure how many speakers and panelists. I just thought, maybe we'll have a couple a day or whatever. And then I'm so rubbish at saying no. I just and this schedule just grew and grew. And a massive thanks need to be said to Mary, who I sent the first email out to my email list, and she said, and she got in touch and said, I'm a festival organizer on, clearly furloughed or not doing any work at the moment, would love to help you, and would love to volunteer, and I'm happy to do that for free. So, I am not an organizer. I am not a details person. Mary has pulled together the whole schedule. She's organized it. She's liaised with all the speakers. This wouldn't have happened, or it wouldn't have happened in any way as organized a way as it has without Mary's help. So absolutely thank you, Mary. You're an absolute superstar. And because you guys have all been so generous with all your donations to the coffee cart, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to put a bit of money Mary's way, because as I said, her the events industry has disappeared overnight almost. So hoping to be able to support her as well. Thank you for all the incredibly generous coffee cart donations, for putting up with my incredibly humorous metaphors around cakes and scones and that sort of thing. I popped the link in there if anybody does want to donate. I'm aware I've kind of pushed it in the Facebook group, and we've got lots of people maybe who are joining from other social media platforms who aren't in there. So yes, Karen said, buy your boys a treat as well. Yeah, they have been absolutely amazing, haven't they? That was actually my biggest worry about this week, because what am I going to do with them for the week? And they're just going to be glued to their screens all week, but they have been absolutely amazing. So we had a theme of imperfect action, didn't we? And I don't know if anyone's seen the quote that I put up in the group that I borrowed from wonderful Claire Flaxon, who is someone I know online who does sort of CBT training and things. And it's like, without action, nothing changes. And so I say this every time I do a talk. I said this in my book. I say this, and I say this to you now. There is absolutely no point you buying my book, you coming to watch a talk, you coming to this festival, if nothing changes. So that is my biggest desire. Is, you know, there's 2,500 people in the Facebook group. When I checked last night, all the talks have been watched over 5,500 times. Now, if every one of those views translates into one action, then wouldn't that be absolutely phenomenal? Claire said, let's celebrate the changes. Amazing idea. If you've made any changes this week as a result of being at the festival, pop them into the chat now, and let's see if we can blow ourselves away and inspire ourselves. So any changes that you've made, no matter how small, I don't care. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to, you know, that's the whole ethos of Sustainable-ish. Pop them into the chat and let's see what we've achieved this week. And yeah, let's just remember that that ish, which I think we've embraced really, really nicely this week, with that being kind to each other, being supportive of each other, acknowledging that we're all in different places. Claire said, I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change, and I'm changing the things I no longer accept. I love that. Ray's switched to Ecosia, but plans to switch to renewable energy supplies and delete too many of the thousands of emails. Judith, using Ecosia. Let's have a look. Stuart said he's made 3 pledges, more to come. So what Stuart said, we've got the pledge wall as well. There's 76 pledges on there. It's just refreshed itself. So there's the pledge wall. So come and plop your pledges on there, so that it gives us that real visual kind of record of the changes that people have made as well. And I'm going to be attempting to get in touch with you all, you know, in the next week or two, just to get that feedback, to really see if we can get some measure of the impact that this week has had, you know, because as I said, it's only worked, it's only been useful if change happens. So yeah, keep popping those changes that you've made. God, there's so many already. Alicia says, brilliant one. Let's inspire 3 other people to make changes too. And that's where we come back to that everyday activism that I think we had right back on day one, that, you know, not only are we making changes, so every change that you've made this week, share that with your friends and your family. Tell them that you've done it. Tell them how easy it was. Tell them why you've done it. And let's see if that, and invite them to do it as well. And let's see if that can, Georgina from Pebble Mag talks a lot about, you know, pebbles makes ripples. How do I get on the pledge wall? Helen says, I thought I posted the link. There's a link a few stages up that says padlet.com, and it's on there. So what I am also really aware of is that I think one of the things that stops us taking eco action, or whatever you want to call it, is that is overwhelm. Like, I think we're all much more aware of the climate emergency than we ever have been. You know, and even, you know, I talk a lot about like mums in the playground and things like that I bump into every day. I think that they the general awareness is as high as it's ever been, and the reasons that people aren't taking more action is because they don't really know what to do. They don't know what to do for the best. They don't know where to come and find reliable information, because there's so much information out there that that it's overwhelming, and you get so much contradictory information and conflicting information. So the very last thing I want to come out of this from 40 talks is for you guys to feel overwhelmed and think, oh my God, I've just had all this information kind of thrown at me over a very short time period, and I feel like I want to do that, and I want to do that, and I should be doing that, and I want to do that, and then, you know, next week the adrenaline for everyone is going to drop, and I don't want people then sat there thinking, oh my goodness, like what, you know, and just sort of give up because it all feels too much. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes just talking to you about some processes I use when I'm working one-on-one with people for coaching, or that I use in my group coaching programs as well. And I'm also going to share, she says, moving a load of crap out there, this little beauty. This is my book. It is one of the things I am most proud of, I think, in my life. It came out in January. It was published by Bloomsbury, or it is published by Bloomsbury. This, someone's put my new Bible. Thank you, Helen. And it kind of is. Like, I was talking to Charlotte, my editor at Bloomsbury, about book number 2. which is coming next year, spoiler alert. And she said, God, we did make it a bit too comprehensive, didn't we? And like, so it makes a follow-up really difficult, but I do genuinely, you know, think there is a huge amount of information in here. And one of the things that I've done in this book is I've split it into 12 chapters. And I think that's a really useful thing to do. So we've got 12 chapters. We've got conscious consumption, zero waste, plastic free, sustainable food, sustainable fashion, family, home, work, school, travel and transport, celebrations and activism. So what I would invite you all to do is to maybe list out those 12 chapters. And this is not to do it now, because you're going to be like, what were those 12 things? And I can come and I can share all this info in the group for you. And the first thing to do would be to look at each of those 12 chapters, split a page in half and write down the changes that you've already made in each of those areas. Because I did an in-person workshop at the start of this year when we were allowed to do such lovely things, and had some, you know, some lovely families from school and things like that come along, and they were all going, oh, really embarrassed, we're not doing anything, you know, I'm quite embarrassed to sort of come and to talk to you about this. And I got them at the start of the session to write down the things that they were already doing. And you know what, they were all absolutely gobsmacked by the amount they were already doing, because I think part of the human condition is that we're very quick to forget the things that we have done and very quick to berate ourselves for all the things that we haven't done. So I think that's a really, really important step, is to think about all the things that you've already done. And if it helps to chunk it down into those 12 chapters, do that. You know, and just literally brainstorm all these things you've already done. Doesn't matter how small it is. Doesn't matter if you think everybody's already doing that. Doesn't matter if you did it 5 years ago. Write them all down. And I guarantee you that will give you some motivation and some incentive, and you know, and then just take a pause and give yourself a pat on the back for doing all those things that you've already done. And then have a little think about what helped me to do those things. What helped me, you know, why did I do those things? What helped me to do it? What stopped me? Was there anything that I had to have a couple of goes at? Because all that information you can then use to help you move forwards and help you to make more decisions. The other thing, and if we go right back, feels like a lifetime ago now, to our first session at 10 o'clock on Monday morning with Ray, was about the values, our values in sustainability. And it was so lovely to have that. And again, hats off to Mary for scheduling this so perfectly, to have that as the first session, because it's a theme that's run throughout the festival, is that you need to keep coming back to what's important to you, to why you're doing this, to you know, for me, my why is, and it's probably psychologically the wrong way around it, but my why is I am scared stiff when I think about the future for my kids. And they always say that, you know, it should be a positive goal. So like, I want a brighter future for my kids, rather than I'm scared crap about, you know, scared the crap out of me what's going to happen to them. But, you know, really tune into that motivation, because I've had times where I've been lying in bed and I've been thinking, what the hell am I doing? I should just go and get a job at Waitrose or Tesco's, you know, bring in more money than I am at the moment, and you know, less stress, fewer hours, all that sort of thing. But actually, I couldn't turn my back on what I'm doing, and couldn't then live with myself. That sounds a bit dramatic. You know, knowing that I hadn't done everything I could to try and make this situation a little bit better. So, you know, so really drill into that. I know it sounds a bit, you know, it can sound a bit woo-woo and a bit worthy, but it is worth, you know, a little 5 or 10 minutes with a cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever, and just thinking about that and connecting with it. And if, you know, write it down, keep it somewhere where you can look at it. That's really helpful as well. Then do that list of, you know, the things that you've already done, because I guarantee you will have done more than you think you have. So write that down, and again, keep that somewhere. And what you can do is, you know, keep it somewhere and just keep adding to it and watch it grow, which is you know, a hugely motivating thing to do. And then look, you can tell I haven't actually prepped this talk. One of the tools that I use, Eleanor's on here, and she did my 6-week course with me, so she'll hopefully be nodding along to this. Is if anyone's done any life coaching or maybe any business coaching or anything like that, it's called the Wheel of Life. And I've kind of adapted it to a wheel of sustainable-ishness or sustainability, or, you know, something like that. But here you go, I'm just hastily drawing one for you. So draw yourself a circle. Doesn't have to be neat. Look, how rubbish is that? And split it. I've split it into 12 because there's 12 chapters in the book, and you know, it just feels like that's nice and complete. And you know, label each section. So you've got fashion, you've got food, you've got conscious consumption, you've got work, you've got travel. But if some of those subjects don't apply to you, that's fine. Your wheel can have 10 things, or it can have 5 things, or it can have 15 things. It doesn't matter. You know, if you haven't got kids at school, obviously don't have that section, that's fine. But you know, how you can make it completely yours. And then you know, as another way of kind of assessing how far you've got and how far you've got to go, is to think that this is in the middle of the wheel. It's really confusing because it moves the wrong way on the screen. This is your 0. This is your 10 out of 10. So if we were to say, and your 10 out of 10 does not have to be perfect. It's your 10 out of 10 for you. Okay. So for me, plastic free feels absolutely, completely out of reach. Could never even attempt to think about being plastic free. That's why I like plastic free-ish. But for me, a really good result maybe for plastic free would be, I don't know, to be able to eliminate all, that sounds a bit drastic, doesn't it? Eliminate all our bathroom plastic or something like that, maybe. So that's your 10 out of 10. That is personal to you. That is what feels realistic and achievable for you. So you put that as your 10 out of 10, and then have a look at, well, you know, that's my 10 out of 10 up here. And you can write that down, and 0's here. Whereabouts do I think I am on this 1 to 10 scale here at the moment? Make a little mark, and that's fine. And have a think about all these things that you've listed, these brilliant things that you've already done. And then you can kind of see the gap. And at that point, it gets a bit daunting because you think, bloody hell, I've got a long way to go. Or actually, aren't I awesome? I've only got a little way to go. But that also allows us, once we see that gap, to then work out step by step by step, because we're not going to close the gap like that. We're going to close it step by step by step by step by step. And we break these steps. Ooh, that was exciting. We break these steps down, and we break these steps down all the time into tight, you know, till they're little micro steps, literally something I can go and do tonight or tomorrow. And we've got that plan for how we do it. And, you know, my advice would be that, you know, you pick an area maybe to focus on at a time, because otherwise it does just become, or, you know, you have 2 or 3 areas that you want to focus on at a time, because otherwise it does all just become a bit overwhelming and a bit bonkers. Does that make sense to everyone, the kind of wheel thing? Because I know it you know, it takes a little bit of getting, but if you can understand it, I think it is a really useful tool. And then the idea obviously is that you'll go around and Chris is giving me a thumbs up, thank you. You'll go around and you'll do that for each of your sections of your wheel. And it's a really useful tool, not only for now, for looking at where you want to go and what you want to do, but in 3 months' time, you can come back to this wheel and you can go, oh, actually, I thought we'd done nothing about plastic, but we were a 3, and now I can see we're a 5. Go me. That is like, aren't I amazing? So really, really easy way of keeping track of your progress as well, because like I said, we're really find it really easy as human beings to sort of negate any progress that we make. And the other thing to do, and I know some people might roll their eyes about this, but in the sort of personal development world, they talk a lot about like SMART goals. But I would say that, you know, it's really important, if we're going to make progress, that we've got a goal, we know where we're heading, rather than saying, so if I was to say, if we take I don't know, a fitness analogy, I'm going to run a marathon. Awesome. Well done. My brain's going to go, no, you're not. And so if I say to my brain, I'm going to run a marathon, I'm going to run the London Marathon, I'm going to run it next year, I'm going to run it in April, and I'm going to run it in less than 5 hours, then my brain's going, oh shit, she's serious about this. Like, oh, okay. But it, you know, then you're starting to think about what you might need to do. Okay, so I know that I've got less than a year in order to get fit enough to run a marathon. I better get off my arse. You know, and you can start thinking of all the things that you need to do to reach that point. So again, if I was to say I'm going to go 0 waste, my brain's going, no, you're not a chance in hell. Whereas if I say I'm going to halve my black bin waste by the end of this year, then my brain's like, oh, yeah, no, actually we could have a go at that. And you've also got a way of measuring it, haven't you? So the S of SMART goal is specific. So making your goal as specific as you can, like your London Marathon, April 2021. Claire's done that to her black bin. Amazing. That's specific. Your the M is measurable. So how are you going to measure the progress that you're making? Is it how full your black bin is every time you put it out? Is it how much plastic recycling you have? Is it how much you're spending on food? Because once you start tackling food waste, often your food bill can really come down. So, you know, get a little bit inventive maybe about how you're going to measure these things, because otherwise isn't there a quote or something like we can only change what we measure, or I don't really know, but you know, otherwise it's going to be a bit disheartening, because we're not going to know if we're actually getting any closer to the thing that we the goal that we want to go to. The A of SMART is achievable. So again, if I was to say going to go zero waste, my brain's just going to go because it doesn't feel like it can be done. If I was to say I'm going to run a marathon in 3 hours, my brain's going to go no you're not. You know, so make it, you know, it wants to be a stretch, but it also wants to feel achievable. R is written down. I use the R as written down. So, you know, really write, like I said, if you want to write your goals around the edge of your circle, then do that. And you've got that to constantly refer back to. And the T is time bound. And I don't know about you guys, but I am totally a deadline person. So I've been thinking about this festival ever since. Lovely Eleanor's on the call, and she did a brilliant festival a few weeks ago for talking about sort of redundancy and career change. And, you know, obviously a lot of people are furloughed at the moment, and it was her that sort of sparked the idea. And I kept thinking about it and kept thinking about it. And in the end, I knew unless I put a date down, it would never happen. So I just literally was sat there on a Sunday night. I went, right, it's going to be in 2 weeks' time, put it out there. So, and the same with, you know, like writing my book. Unless I had a deadline, it's not going to get written. Or I could have had a much longer deadline and it would have taken me just as long, but spread over a longer period of time. So for me and for my brain, deadlines are really, really important. And you will know yourself how well your brain works. But I would really encourage you to give yourself a deadline. Otherwise, things just have a tendency to drift, don't they? So yeah, I mean, let me know what some of you've shared all the brilliant some of the brilliant changes that you're making, and I just will need to come back to this and screenshot all of these actions, because it just absolutely makes my heart sing. Thank you guys. Keep popping them in there as you think of them. But yeah, and actually seeing Teresa's reminded me, Teresa from Sisters Against Plastic. The other thing is to have a baseline that you're working from. So I know Teresa and Mary talk about, you know, doing a plastic audit, and that's your baseline to work from. So they did their plastic diet in 2018 and weighed all their plastic rubbish each month. So, you know, January's was their baseline, because unless you know what your baseline is, you don't know if you're improving at all. So again, if you're, you know, just make a mental note, we're putting the bin out every 2 weeks, and it, you know, and a small child is having to jump on it at the moment. That's how full it is. So we're working for an improvement on that. So if in a month's time a small child's not, it's still full, but the small child's not having to jump on it, we know we're making progress. And yeah, and Teresa says that you see your little changes and you see how they're adding up. So plastic audit, absolutely brilliant thing to do. Massive eye opener. You know, if you could, I don't think many people could manage it for a month like Teresa and Mary did, but if you can do it for a week, collect all your plastic in one place, and it's a brilliant project, especially at the moment, to do with your kids. You know, get them collecting it, have a conversation about plastic, have a conversation, do some maths at the, you know, when you come together at the end of it to look at it, ask them for their input and suggestions, because that way you're much more likely to get buy-in. I don't know if any of you saw, have caught up with Ed's session that he did yesterday about sort of sustainable homeschooling, and you might not feel that it's that relevant if you've got older kids or anything like that, but he talked about setting up a family eco committee. So everybody in the family is part of the eco committee, and that's part of the kind of eco schools philosophy, is you start up an eco committee in your school and then you do an eco audit. So you could do exactly the same thing with your family. Get everybody, you know, sat around the table, right guys, here's your green badge, you're our eco committee, we're all the eco committee. Let's do a little green audit of our house. Let's have a look at all the things we're already doing. Well, brilliant. We've already got LED light bulbs, and we've already, you know, recycling a lot of our plastic, and we're already doing this really well. But actually, we're a bit crap at turning the lights off, aren't we, everybody? Or a bit crap at leaving things on standby and stuff like that. And then, you know, you can create these family goals of things to work towards. I'm aware that I'm just like and talking at you, but yeah, I just really want to make change as easy as possible for you all, and to really kind of see these changes happen. So yeah, have a think about what you, Mike said, calculate your carbon footprint and see how much you can reduce it in a year. Brilliant. And Jo was on earlier talking about her geeky, her new geeky website that's coming, that enables you to measure your carbon footprint, and to in a more sort of subtle way than like the WWF one does. It's slightly sharper tool. So that can be a really good thing to do as well. And yeah, I think I would just reiterate, I'm quite happy to do like a Q&A, guys, as well. So if you have got questions, pop them in the box. You can ask me anything. Ask me what my kids watched on screen while I've been running the festival. But, you know, if you've got any questions about how to implement change, how to make it happen, how to, you know, if there's anything you're particularly struggling with, I can't guarantee you I'm going to be able to give you a nice, neat answer, because often there aren't. But do pop questions in the box and I will go through them. Claire said she thought of 2 questions, but no, please ask questions. She thinks I must be drained. No, please ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of things to talk about. That will never happen. So what was I saying about having an eco committee, about making a change? Then I talked about asking me questions. Not a clue. Not a clue. Completely gone. So yeah, you know, just break it down. Keep breaking it down. One thing I also encourage people to do, if I do a talk or anything like that, or a longer session, is you know, come up with 3 actions. Maybe you could do that for each area on your wheel. Come up with 3 actions. 1 action you can do within the next 24 to 48 hours. 1 action you can do within the next week, and 1 action that you can do slightly longer term. So that, you know, and you've got this like literally 1, 2, 3, and you can even put them in your diary if you want to, so that you can you know, so that you can see the deadlines coming, and you know that you've got these things to change. But I saw somebody mention it in the chat as well. Absolutely go with the low-hanging fruit first. That is the, you know, go with the easiest things. Go with the things that will be the quickest. Go with the things that you know you can do really easily, because somebody mentioned right in the first talk, I think, I hadn't come across it before, but this thing called the commitment curve, whereby you know, those first changes are almost sometimes they feel the hardest, don't they? Because, you know, it's like yeah, I'm going to run this marathon. Actually, you know, the hardest thing is kind of getting out the door for that first run or whatever. But you know, so do the nice easy things, and that allows you to build up some motivation and momentum in order to be able to tackle some of those harder things. And remember that not everything will change overnight. So, and break it down into as small a task as possible. So you might say, I want to switch to glass milk bottles. I use this analogy quite a lot. So I want to switch to glass milk bottles because I want to reduce our plastic. So the very first thing you might decide to do is your thing that you can do in the next 24, 48 hours is have a look online and see if you've got a milkman who'll deliver. So there's a website called findmeamilkman.net. You can go on there and you can see if you've got a milkman who will deliver to you. So, you know, that could be your first action. So it's not that like tomorrow I'm expecting you to wake up and eliminate all plastic milk bottles. So, you know, we break this down into the smallest things that we possibly can. And again, with that analogy, if milk in glass bottles is more expensive, so that doesn't have to be all or nothing. Can you do milk in plastic bottles 3 days a week and glass bottles 3 days a week? Or can you do milk in glass bottles at the weekends? Or can you do 1 week in 4 as glass bottles? So, you know, the whole time, again, think about things that, I'm just going to turn the lights, that can make it work for you. Right, so there's some questions. I'm sure I'm going to come off this call and go, oh, damn it, I meant to say this. What is the date for next year? Be really interested to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I think I mentioned this to Eleanor when we were sort of chatting about her festival and me doing this one. This feels like such a unique time because, you know, we've just spent 5 days where, yes, some people have been working. Yes, some people have had, you know, we've had the kids at home and that kind of thing. but when else would we have had 5 days where we could all come together, you know, and around about the same place in the same time frame, and invest this time and this energy in this? Because even if it was a long bank holiday weekend in ordinary circumstances, we'd be off seeing family, we'd be off, you know, visiting a National Trust place, we'd be off, I don't know, doing something lovely. And because we haven't been able to go off and do those things, I think it's meant more of us of being kind of willing and able to come together and share this space together. So I don't know, I would love to do it again. It's given me like the biggest warm fuzzies and buzz and all that sort of thing. But I don't know if it would have the same energy and the same time that people could commit to it. I'm not sure. Karen saying could definitely do it on the same scale, but a series of talks 2 or 3 days or evenings for a week. Yeah, or maybe a weekend. Maybe you can do it again, but with a less full-on lineup. Please create another festival. Oh man, you guys, I'm definitely going to take the weekend to you know. Oh, that's an amazing question, Karen. Thank you. What is the wow thing you have learned from the speakers this week? So many things, so many kind of wow moments. Well, that's what I love, is that I had a wobble pre-festival thinking, oh my God, like I saw all these people from kind of like LinkedIn and stuff signing up who were all these sustainability professionals. And I'm like, I'm not a sustainability professional. Like the bio on my book is Jen is an ordinary knackered mum of 2. And that's the whole point of what I do, is that if I can do it, you guys can do it. So it's been really lovely to see a lot of the stuff that I talk about being reiterated by people about these things around values. Oh, here's the dog coming in. These things around values, these things around imperfection, these things around starting small, you know, all those things. So so that's been really lovely. I think the wow stat that came out for me was, I don't know if how many of you guys saw it, but Lauren, who connected with me on Twitter, came and did an open mic session last night. And bless her, she was so nervous, and you know, quite sort of kept saying, I'm really nervous, is this okay? But the stat that she was talking about sustainable cinema, which is something that we never even kind of really crossed my mind. But apparently for every hour of TV that goes out there, it's the equivalent of 13 tons of carbon dioxide. And depending on which references you use, 13 tons of carbon dioxide is the average annual carbon footprint for an adult in the UK. So for every hour of TV that's produced, that's the carbon footprint of it. And we don't even think about that. And the first time I really thought about it, and I'm going to sound a bit of a name-dropping wanker here, but Nadia from Bake Off came around my house last year randomly to make fudge for her TV series, and the producer for the thing, she was involved in this scheme called the Alberts, which is all about sustainable film and things, and she was talking to me about it. And once you start to think about catering on set, once you start to think about plastic cups that they must use on set, once you start to think about the massive lights and the amount of energy that they must use on set, it's really easy to see how actually this is a massively polluting industry that we just don't really hear about or think about. And Lauren was saying that, you know, we've sort of, in the last maybe 5 or so years, we've really had this increased awareness of fast fashion and the damage that that's doing. And maybe, hopefully, it's that, you know, awareness is starting to rise about that. But yeah, that really made me, and I think that's not to make us feel guilty for watching telly. Like, I'm not going to stop watching telly. I'm not going to stop going to the cinema. But I do think that's maybe for us to send an email to, I don't know, the BBC or to different production companies that absolutely loved your TV series, you know, been absolutely hooked to it. Can you tell me if you're signed up to this Alberts scheme and what you're doing about sustainability and using our, you know, our activism and our voices in that way? So I think that was the stat that really blew me away. I do love a stat. Would we save a lot of energy turning our cookers off? The light in the cupboard, guessing that's like a standby button, more chance of remembering than the TV. Do you know what we did? We did this energy race thing several years ago now as part of the Ethical Observer Awards. And so we were with, like, I don't know, 4 other households, and they came and did an energy analysis sort of beforehand, and then came and did an energy analysis of the house afterwards. and we took the lights out of the fridge so the light doesn't come on when it opens up. But you can now get LED versions of these things. This was quite a few years ago. I don't think we've got the light in the cooker anymore. It might just be that my cooker door's so dirty, but I don't think we've got the light on in the cooker anymore. But again, I think you can get LED versions of that. Yeah, you know, it does make a difference turning those things off, but it's going to be a tiny thing. And I can't remember who it was earlier today talking about this sort of, I think it might have been Anne at 6 o'clock talking about this 80-20 thing. And, you know, oftentimes we can go so far, and that last 20% is going to be absolutely bloody hard work. So actually, maybe we'd be better off turning our attention to 80% in another area, because that would be more impact and less hard work. So yeah, maybe not go to those extremes if you don't want to. What is your top tip for inspiring people who don't see the relevance to them of sustainability and environmentally friendly living? Thank you so much for this festival. Thank you, Alison. I thought Jarvis did a really powerful exercise in his session on taking sustainability mainstream. And he said, close your eyes. And I thought, oh, here we go. Like, because he said himself, he said, I'm a bit of a hippie. You know, and it was the close your eyes but I won't do it for you, but basically he said, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, think about your favorite place in the world. Really think about it. Think about where it is. Think about what you're doing. You know, who else is there? What are you seeing when you're looking at it? And then he said, right, you know, take another breath, open your eyes. Tell me if you were in a shop. You know, how many of you were in a shop? And I was just like, of course I wasn't in a shop. I was on a beach in Wales. Do you know, like, so something like that, you know, I'm not saying we all sit down with our friends and do that, but that was a really powerful exercise for me. Claire did it with the kids. Well done, Claire. That's amazing. So that's really, really interesting. But I also just think, Matthew talked about this in when he was on our panel about where are all the men. He said, show, don't tell. So, and I'm a massive, like, I find it really hard. I've said this a few times that I am quite happy to stand up on a stage, or I'm quite happy to talk to you guys via webcam. I am quite happy to write blog posts. I am quite happy to do Instagram Live, talking about all these things, because online, for me, it feels much safer. People can engage, or they can scroll on by. My friends from school can just go, off she goes again, just scroll on by. So I find the really difficult conversations to have with friends and family. And when my parents were alive, I used to find it really, really difficult to have conversations with them. My mum would, she'd go bonkers at Christmas buying loads of stuff. I'd go to their house and the thermostat was right up and all the lights were on, and I'd be kind of, twitching inside. But it's really difficult with those closest to you, because there's so much kind of hidden emotion and things behind there, and people feel like you're judging them. And that's the very last, you know, I hate confrontation. I hate, you know, all that sort of thing. So I really shy away from that. This is such a long-winded reply. I'm so sorry. But yeah, show, don't tell. So I've talked a lot about my very mended jeans this week that I no longer have. They did finally give up the ghost, but they were very visibly repaired, and I would wear them to school, and I'd be sat there in assembly, and invariably someone would say to me, I really love your jeans, and I'd say, oh, thank you, like, yeah, I've patched them, and I'm a bit crap at patching, aren't I? But you know, it's just for me, it's really important that I keep things going for as long as possible, because, and then maybe if you've got a really cool stat, and I can't remember what it is, but like, did you know it needs X thousand litres of water to make a pair of jeans, or something like that? You know, if you've got that kind of, the stat I can always remember is if we keep items, garments in use for, I think it's 9 months longer, we decrease their carbon and water footprint by between 20 and 30%. So, you know, if you can like have a bit of a geek out on a stat like that, it just makes people think like, because most of the time people aren't not doing this stuff because they don't care. They're doing it because it hasn't occurred to them. Before we spent our year buying nothing new, it had not occurred to me that somebody somewhere was sat in a factory sewing seam after seam after seam on a pair of trousers or on a t-shirt or whatever. And, you know, I just assumed it was all automated and it was done by machines. So people are, you know, doing these things because, or not doing these things because sometimes they just don't know. And so I think the whole time, be kind, be non-judgmental, be non-preachy. If people come to you, absolutely, like, oh yeah, no, I've done this and it was really easy and it was really amazing. you know, and talk about some of the other benefits of it as well. Like, you know, actually, maybe I couldn't afford to find these to replace these jeans at the moment, so I've done this to keep them going for a bit longer, and it saved me 50 quid or whatever. You know, and that sort of thing. So I think that can be, and the more that we do these things and we're seen to do these things, the more normal it becomes, and the more people think, actually, like I said earlier, if she can do it, I can do it too. And so, you know, when I just encouraged you all earlier, you know, all these changes that you've made, this massive great list here, go and share that on your social media platforms, and just say, I've switched. You know, the one message that just kept continually coming out of this festival was to switch to green energy. I've done it. It took me 10 minutes. I've saved 200 quid. Here's a link if you guys want 50 quid off or whatever. Like, because then people are, oh, actually, yeah, that's super easy. I'm going to give that a go. So we'll talk about it. And I talk about, for kids' parties, I normally either make these giant chocolate buttons that are basically like melt a bar of chocolate, smoosh it into vaguely circle shapes I use a reusable baking thingy, but you can use baking paper or whatever, pop some sprinkles on top if I'm feeling excited, wait for them to set and put them in a jam jar and give them to the kids. And the kids absolutely adore them. Like, somebody came bouncing up to me ahead of her next year's party and went, are you going to make those buttons again for my party? And I was like, did I make them last year? I can't remember. Well done. But I was always too embarrassed to go up to parents and to say, do you think I'm a bit tight? Do you think I'm a bit strange? Because that's what I do. And the other thing I do is I'll make shortbread and cut out, you know, number 7s or number 10s or whatever, and pop them in a glass jar. And when I did this online, this in-person workshop, like I said, some of the mums from school came along and I talked about this, and they were like, no, we love it. We think it's amazing. You know, it's sort of made us rethink maybe how we do presents and that sort of thing. So, you know, just because people aren't talking to you about it doesn't mean that these cogs aren't whirring in their heads. So that was the most long-winded answer ever. How am I going to celebrate? I'm gonna have a massive nap, I think, Jo. I actually don't drink. Everyone's going, oh, you're gonna have a massive G&T. I actually don't drink. So yeah, I think just stop. Can you just retouch on lockdown guilt? Yeah, absolutely. I had to buy plastic tea bags this week, and after buying Clipper before lockdown, it actually broke my heart. Oh my goodness, Claire, please, please, please don't feel guilty. And we talked about this in Anne's session as well, I think, just more generally about guilt. Oh, that'll be my mother-in-law ringing for iPad help from my husband. Just wait and see if someone's going to get that. Do you like our ringtone as well? It's a bit dramatic, isn't it? Anyone? Ben? Yes, it's my mother-in-law. I'll just go get it. Thanks. There we go. So professional. So lockdown guilt and guilt in general. Just to go broader first, guilt in general, we were talking with Anne about fast fashion and again about plastics and things like that. There's so far that we can go, and then the rest of it is down to businesses, down to government, so absolutely, let's do whatever we can, but let's not beat ourselves up about the fact that we live in a system that at the moment isn't built to make this easy for us. So if we can't get to a zero waste shop, that is not our fault. If we can't, if we've got, you know, garments that have come to the end of their life and we don't know what to do with them, and they end up going in the rag bag rather than, you know, back into some wonderful circular economy, that is not our fault. If we're in lockdown and we can't get the plastic free items that we're normally used to getting, that is not our fault, and do not feel bad about that. You know, we live in a system, like I said, that just isn't there yet, hopefully, in order to make these things easy for us, which is why an awful lot of people don't do them. So, you know, again, Claire, you were saying about the tea bags. Well, let's have a think. Is there something else that you can do? And I already know that you have made a load of changes this week. So let's not sweat about the tea bags, because actually this week I've changed my energy supplier, which is massive. Or this week I've switched to Ecosia, another great change. So Teresa and Mary touched on this as well in the plastics talk, that you know, sometimes, and I talk about food packaging, I think, is one of the hardest things to tackle, and it can, because it's so visible, because we see it every time we unpack our shopping, it can feel really frustrating. It can feel like we're not we're not making any progress and we're banging our head against a brick wall. Actually, let's accept that that is something that we can't change at the moment because we don't have a zero waste shop and we need to get an online shop because life is busy. And let's have a look at the bathroom, or let's have a look at menstrual products, or let's have a look at changing our energy supplier, or let's have a look at food waste. And let's you know, sometimes I think we reach a wall and we're like bang, 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 bang. And actually what we need to do is turn around and go off in a different direction for a little bit. And then when we come back, maybe the wall will be lower, or maybe we'll have bought a step ladder, or, you know, oh, I'm quite pleased with that analogy. Teresa says it's okay to have a line. Well done. Yeah, love that. Right, let's have a little look. Touch on lockdown guilt. Brilliant. If Ecover was your only refill, would you use it? Yes. There's a big argument of Ecover being owned by SC Johnson. Absolutely. And I think Pucker get this argument levered at them as well, because they're now, they sold out to Unilever. Trying to think how to articulate this. Just because they're now owned by a company that maybe haven't had the best track record in things doesn't mean that they're automatically. Our assumption is that here's Ecover and here's SC Johnson, and SC Johnson are going to go like this and smother Ecover's values and turn them into big bad animal testing nasties. What actually might happen is here's SC Johnson, here's Ecover. Ecover are going to nudge SC Johnson and start influencing SC Johnson to make slightly different choices and slightly different values. And also the fact that say Pucker or Ecover have been taken over by a big corporation means A, they are doing something right, and these big corporations are suddenly starting to realize that they need to incorporate some sustainability into their brand. And B, forgotten what B was. means but it means that, you know, it doesn't negate all the good stuff they're doing. And it also means that this big company, that was my B, these big companies are able to invest in them and allow them to expand their reach and to get their good stuff out to more people. So that's my take on that. If Ecover is the only ones you can get on, absolutely don't worry about it. You know, I think within the eco and environmental community, there's a tendency for sort of holier than thou, and for, you know, we can only have the greenest of the green. And I see it a lot on social media that someone will go, oh, I've bought Ecover, and everyone's jumping on them and slamming them because they've been bought by SC Johnson, and maybe I didn't know they were bought by SC Johnson, and actually is that even really a bad thing? And let's just, whoa, take a step back here in a minute. You know, there is no green, not green. There is no black and white. There's a myriad of shades of green in between. So we do what works for us. And again, for companies, yes, we want to be pushing them. We want to be holding them to account. We want to be getting them to go further. But there will be reasons why Ecover, hopefully above and beyond financial, were bought out by SC Johnson. And the same, you know, I still think, from what I've heard of Pucker, they are still doing an amazing job, and they are still very true to their values and things like that. So, you know, continue to support these businesses, because suddenly if everybody turns away from Ecover or turns away from Pucker and things like that, then suddenly all the good stuff they're doing can't be done anymore. So yes, and Steph makes a really good point. Communicate with companies about what they're doing well as well. Yeah, not just slamming them for what they're doing wrong. 50 Shades of Green, believe me, Malcolm, I've thought about that one. Or is there a 50 Shades of Green book? Oh, there is a book called Shades of Green. Look, now the dog's barking. She's been really good this week as well. I think Spud deserves a little pat on the head for being good this week. And that's all the questions, guys, I think, unless I've missed anything. This is because somebody is probably attempting to give one of the children a piggyback, and the dog goes nuts when the thing goes upstairs. Just do, you know, pop questions in the thing if you've still got questions. I've popped the coffee cart in there if you do want to support the festival. Again, I've been absolutely blown away by the people's generosity, and that's not to guilt anyone into donating if they haven't, or if they gave £1, or, you know, absolutely every donation is really gratefully received, and has meant that, you know, I can cover the cost of Crowdcast. Like I said, I can hopefully send Mary some money. And one of the things I really want to do is talk to Luke from Terra Nutra about carbon offsetting the festival. So if you want to, if you do want to donate, that's amazing. If you don't, absolutely no guilt. It's a really shitty time for a lot of people, so that's absolutely fine. I know Claire was saying she was having trouble with PayPal on the Ko-fi thing. So you know, if you can't access that and you do want to buy a book, then again, that would be absolutely amazing. If you have already got a book, the other thing to do is to go and leave a review, even if it's on Big Bad Amazon, because that helps it move up the charts, and for then book shops when they reopen to go, oh, that's a really good book, people like that. So, you know, do go and leave a rating or a review on about the book. I have got the podcast, the Sustainable-ish podcast, which my plan now going forwards would be to do that, and probably here on Crowdcast, so we can do them as nice live events, answer loads of questions afterwards, and then push them out onto the podcast. So keep your eyes out for that. Yeah, going forwards, if you guys do want a bit of extra support, I'm going to run another round of my 6-week, I briefly mentioned it earlier, I do this 6-week Sustainable-ish in 6 weeks course. Eleanor's done it. There's quite a few of Caroline's done it, who did our Bristol energy, our community energy talk last night. So quite a few of the guys in the group have done it. So I'm sure hopefully they'll be happy to sort of let you know if it was any good. But it's 6 weeks. We come together. We probably do it now maybe on Crowdcast. We have our own separate Facebook group. And I basically just kind of hold your hand and help you work out and create your own action plan for how you're going to move forwards, and for the things that will work for you. And not everybody's going to need that. That's absolutely fine. Loads of people are happy to look on the internet and look in books and all that sort of thing. But if you are someone who could do with a bit of extra hand holding, a bit of accountability, I think that's really important, to say, I'm going to spend this time focusing on this, I'm going to come up with this plan, and I'm going to make it happen. Then I would say I'll pop a link. I'm clearly not organised enough to have a link. Yeah, just maybe get in touch with me if you're interested, and I will let you know. I'm hoping it will start not next week, maybe the week after. That's how organised I am at the moment. So yeah, if that's interesting to anybody, just let me know. You can get in touch with me all over the shop. There was one more question. Can we donate later when we get paid? Of course you can, Helen. And you please don't feel under any pressure to donate. So yeah, I think that was all the questions. Has anyone got a link to the pledge wall? I'll share that again. Yeah, I would love to see hundreds of pledges on this pledge wall. It would make my little heart very, very happy indeed if you guys would hop over there and just pop a pledge on there. I'm really sad it's finished as well. Oh, Proudcast won't let me send it again. Maybe if I say pledge wall and send it. There we go. Oh, and Abby's shared it as well. Thank you, Abby. I know I'm going to have a massive come down in the next 2 days and be like the most depressed, miserable person ever. So that's something to look forward to. I'm going to take the weekend to have a think, you know, what do we do with the Facebook group? Because there's so much lovely interaction and things on there. Where do you find details for your course? Very good question. If I was organised, I would have had a link for you. Let me see if it is still on the website. If I can't find a link to share with you now, just drop me a PM on Facebook, or I'll put my email into the chat. And see, there we go, dig deeper, e-guides and courses. Might even be working. There we go. So this page needs a bit of updating, but this is basically the details of it. If anybody is interested in that. And like I said, just drop me an email. Get that in. I can't talk and type at the same time. I used to be able to do loads of stuff at the same time till I had kids. That's my email if anybody wants to get in touch. I'm at Sustainable-ish on most places. We've got the big Facebook group as well. If people want to come and join that, that's Sustainable-ish with Jen Gale. And yeah, I feel like I've just rabbited on at you guys for the best part of an hour. I hope that's been hope that's been useful, going through the going through the kind of wheel and how you chunk this down and how you decide what you're going to focus on first. And again, when you're thinking about what to focus on first, go back to that thing that Ray said about your values. Where's your passion? Where's your energy? If your passion and energy is plastics, go with that first. If your passion and energy is food, go with that first. If you want to do some stuff with the kids, go with that first. So you know, there's no right or wrong way to do this, absolutely at all. And I hope that's a message that's kind of come through loud and clear. Oh, Claire, you're so lovely. She says standing ovation. I feel like I'm missing some questions. How long will we have access to the festival sessions? Loads and loads of people have been asking for that. Basically, as long as I keep paying Crowdcast, they are up there. So I just need to work out finances and whether I can downgrade that, because I've had the biggest package possible for Crowdcast because we've had so many hours of presentations. I just need to work out, you know, how I can downgrade that and if that is financially viable to do. As I said, I would really like to, because I actually really like it. And after the session, the horribleness on Zoom on Monday, I would feel much safer using this platform now, and to use that going forwards for podcasts and things like that. So if that happens, then obviously they're all going to stay there. If that's not going to happen, I will let you know. And what I will do is I will spend weeks probably trying to download them all and then put them somewhere else, either on the website or on Vimeo or on YouTube or somewhere like that. There was a suggestion of buddies to work through actions. Yeah, I did kind of half think of that halfway through the festival, and we can put a buddy thread up there in the Facebook group if people want to do that, because you know, it's like doing exercise, isn't it? If you've got someone you're going to meet at the end of the drive to go for a run, you're much more likely to go for a run. So what we can do, or what I can do, is put a thread in the Facebook group, a buddy thread or an accountability thread. And if you're looking for someone just to do a bit of work with you, and to sort of hold you accountable and to spur each other on, then, you know, comment on there, and you guys, I will leave it to you guys to be grown-ups and kind of sort out how that works. Margarita says, thank you so much. It's brilliant. Thank you. I feel so much better now. Good. I was feeling guilty too, particularly regarding food packaging. And quite a few people have said actually that I don't know if you were in Joe's talk at 4 o'clock, and she did this really clever poll thing and said, what's been your favorite thing about lockdown? And apparently she messaged me afterwards to say someone put on there, I've enjoyed nothing about lockdown until this week. I was like, oh, that's so lovely. And I've had so many of you say that your motivation was really low, that all those sorts of things. And I think a lot of us lost our mojo during lockdown. So having you know, hopefully, yeah, well, I'm buzzing after this week. You can see I can't shut up. So you know, hopefully it's kind of inspired and motivated you, and let's just keep making those changes. Like this, I'm just one person, and I had a you know, fairly stupid idea to do this, and look what's happened when you come together. And I am nothing special. Do you know, like, I don't have super confidence powers. I don't have certainly don't have super organizational skills. This is just something I'm really passionate about, and I want to bring people together. So yeah, thank you all. This festival would have been nothing without your loveliness and your support and your willingness to learn, your willingness to change, your willingness to take action. So really looking forward to see what kind of ripples, what things spread, what happens, what comes out of this. Yeah, I really hope it is this kind of wave of change that we can start and we can ride going forwards. So I'm going to go before I get a bit emotional. Thank you. I can't say thank you enough times. You've been absolutely amazing. It feels really sad to be pressing end broadcast for the last time for this festival anyway. But I'll catch you all in the Facebook group. If you're not in there, do come and join us. It's Sustainable-ish Festival pop-up, I think. If you're not on Facebook, come and find me on other social media platforms, and we can connect on there. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. You've been amazing. I've loved every minute of it. Well, apart from the tiny bit on Monday night, but I've loved all the rest of it. Thank you ever so much. Take care.